Hey guys, so today I'm going to be filming a very different video, but I think a very important one. So over the past few weeks, my eyes have been so opened to everything with the Black Lives Matter movement, the death of George Floyd. I've spent so much time educating myself, listening to the voices of Black people, hearing their experiences and hearing so many people speak on the topic has just really been eye-opening for me. I've learned a lot about racism and about systemic racism, and it's just so much. There's so much to learn, guys, and I hope we're all doing our bit. Over the past few days, I have seen the conversation widen a bit to racism in general, towards other races as well. I planned on filming a Q&A last week, and 60% of the questions were about my experience as a mixed race person. I filmed the Q&A, but now when I came to edit it, I did edit the whole thing and I feel like I'm not even gonna upload it, which is really annoying. When I came to like really thinking about it, this just deserves its own video and it's not something that I'm just gonna put in a Q&A, you know? I feel like I want to actually sit down. I've like made a proper plan of everything I want to say. In this video, I'm going to be talking about two main topics. I want to talk about microaggressions and my personal experience with racism, but I also want to talk about being mixed race and what it means to have two races in you. Is that definitely doesn't sound right. To be a part of two races. I do want to preface this by saying that I am extremely, I don't want to say lucky, because nobody is lucky to not experience extreme racism. Like, that should be the bare minimum of decent humanity, but I am glad to have not experienced anything awful, and there are so many people out there who have experienced so much worse than I have. But I think that the fact that this conversation is opening is really a good thing, and this is something that you guys have requested me to talk about regardless of everything that's happened recently. So yeah, so I'm going to start out by talking about microaggressions. If you haven't heard of this, I'm going to read the official definition. So a microaggression is a term used for brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioural or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory or negative prejudicial slights and insults towards any group, particularly culturally marginalised group. I think the key thing to take away from the definition is that it does not need to be intentional. You do not need to know you're doing it. It is not the same as, you know, calling someone the N-word or something like that, where it's very clear that you know that's wrong. Nuanced, I guess, is the word. And something I have learned recently is that racism is so institutionalized to the point where I, as a non-white person, have had racist or microaggressive terms said to me, and I don't even know. If everybody says something to you your whole life and nobody ever tells you that it's wrong or that they shouldn't be able to say that to you, you just assume that it's okay. While I was in school, this was something I never thought twice about, but over the past 2 years I've definitely opened my eyes a bit to this sort of thing. I'm gonna give a brief background of like my family and like how I came to be, because I feel like that's relevant. I'm mixed race. I'm half Indian and half English. My mum is English and my dad is Indian. Both my parents were born and grew up in the UK their whole lives. My dad is from Birmingham and my mum is from like just outside London. I'll tell like a brief story of like my family's immigration. So my bar, which is what I call my Indian grandma, immigrated from India when she was 18, 19, I can't remember, 18 or 19. She came all by herself. She was not with her husband or with any family. She, as like a 18-year-old woman, which I think is really inspirational, especially in those times, moved from India to the UK to give her family like a better chance at life, which I just think is so inspiring. First of all, like, huge shout out to her. Like, she didn't speak any English. She didn't have like skills to get like a really good job or anything. She kind of risked it all to give her children better opportunities. The fact that I sit here in a nice house in London, like with, you know, financial stability and the opportunity to go to university and all of that, is all down to the fact that she took that leap. I don't know. When she moved to the UK, they definitely like struggled financially. And my dad's dad, they worked in factories, really poorly paid jobs, to earn money to give their children a better future. I am very privileged to have had infinite opportunities growing up, and he did not have that at all. This can be true of, you know, anyone. Like, any race can be socially economically challenged, but I definitely feel like the fact that his family were immigrants, he has also been a victim of racism for sure. Again, I owe a lot to him for the life that I lead. He got into university. I think he was the first person in his family to go to university. The only reason he was able to financially go to university was because when he was like 18, 19, it was a Labour government and they were giving free tuition and a lot more grants that you didn't have to pay back. So that was the reason he was able to go to university. If he was living as a teenager in today's government, he would not have been given that opportunity, which honestly is just such a bad cycle, and that like really upsets me because I know that like if he hadn't been able to go to university, he wouldn't have the job that he does now, and my life would be so different. And it's just so unfair how many people are, I don't know, like I don't want to get too into like politics, but yeah, it's just something I think about a lot. Ever since I was little, I definitely have experienced a general shame to be different or to be Indian. I feel like when you're in primary school and up until the age of like maybe like 15, 16, I feel like all you want is just to be like everybody else and you just want to fit in. And this has always been something for me that I was like, oh, I don't really fit in. I am incredibly grateful to have grown up in a capital city which is hugely multicultural. The area that I live in London, is very multicultural. I was lucky to be in classes at school that were extremely diverse. I never felt weird for being mixed race because I wasn't the only non-white person in the class. However, I do still feel like I've experienced some negativity. And yeah, the aim of this video is not to throw myself a pity party at all, because I am extremely lucky just in all areas of life, to be honest. I'm just so lucky, but I more just want to give you something to think about, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you'll change your actions or think twice before saying something. So I've made a list of those microaggressions I was talking about, which I feel like I've experienced. There are obviously infinitely more that I haven't experienced and I'm lucky to have not. I just thought sharing my personal journey would be insightful. So the first thing, which I get 24/7, a comment, this will be on every single video without fail. Most people when I meet them for the first time will ask me this. The question is, where are you from? At first look, this isn't, you know, anything offensive or weird to ask, but I feel like when you really delve a bit deeper, this can kind of insinuate that you are different or a foreigner, that you maybe don't belong. The fact that the question needs to be asked is a little, can come off negative. Never personally bothered me. I get that when you look at me, you don't necessarily know what my ethnicity is and people are curious. However, I would say, just as a general rule, this is not something to be curious about. If someone wants to tell you where they're from, they will. You shouldn't really ask. I get this comment on every single video and it doesn't upset me because I know that no one's coming with like a malicious intent. That's kind of the nature of microaggressions, is that you don't mean it, but it's just a thing anyway. When I was in primary school, people did joke about Indian people. There was this one boy that I remember, he would like make jokes and I would just kind of follow along. Like people would like mock the accents and stuff, and I guess I would just follow along. I just wanted to fit in. Another thing that is a microaggression but can't really be avoided is my name is always pronounced wrong in schools, in my whole life. When they were reading through the register, there was so much anxiety inside of me knowing that like my name was coming up in the register, because I knew that they were going to say it wrong and then they were going to be like, wait, is that how you say it? Like, is that right? And draw so much attention to me, and everyone was going to look at me, and it just makes me feel, in a school setting especially, I hated the attention being on me. I just literally wanted to like blend into the wall, and just knowing like when they were getting down the alphabet, I was like, oh my god, my name's coming, and I was just so nervous for them to say it wrong and just draw all that attention to me that I just didn't want. I just wanted literally to, it was one of those moments where I just wanted the ground to swallow me whole. People always said my name wrong, and it kind of goes along with the whole makes you feel a bit different, makes you feel like a foreigner, like your name isn't normal. And you know, this can't be avoided because people just don't know how to say it. However, I do think it's pretty phonetic. It's literally just nay, nah, I don't know. Yeah, and another thing that's very nuanced, but again kind of in the same realm, like when you're writing your name on like Microsoft Word or even on my notes tab, or even if I'm like sending a message and someone wants to say my name or something, always autocorrects, always get that like red squiggly line underneath, and it's just a reminder that you're different and you're not like everybody else. Another thing that I feel like I've kind of experienced is the whole, why are you so quiet? I guess this is a stereotype of Asian people, and I am quiet and shy, like that's just who I am, but I do feel like people maybe said it more because when you look at me you don't necessarily know my ethnicity, so I'm not gonna like assume that people were doing it because of that, but it's just another thing that I've thought about recently. Another whole realm of things is just I never really felt like I saw people that looked like me on TV or in movies. Obviously I look more like a white person than a lot of people, which I guess is like I'm closer to the people on TV, but it still doesn't feel like they're someone I can relate to in the same way. And I personally have seen a lot of like imitation of Indian accents and like jokes about like spice and stuff like that, which is not like harmful, like malicious, but it does kind of make me feel uncomfortable sometimes, especially if I'm like in a group and people will say that sort of thing. I'll just be like, oh, okay. Like, I've been a bystander for so many years, mainly like a bystander to myself, if that makes sense. People would say things to me that I should have called them out on and I just didn't, because I never like to draw attention to myself. If everyone's looking at me, like all I want to do is just take the attention off of me. I don't want to like fight back. I guess that's how people learn. Some other examples are tights. Tights, oh my god, tights never matched me. Those like skin color types, they're not skin color. Like the fact that this even is a thing, I'm just confused as to why this came about. Yeah, for ages actually I really struggled with finding skin color tights, especially just like in supermarkets. I can wear the white, like the white people ones, but it just looks ever so slightly weird and I don't like it. There's this picture of me wearing tights. I just feel like it looks so weird. It looks like I'm trying to be white. I just couldn't avoid. Those were the only tights that were like I could find really. There are lots of places you can buy them online, but I don't know, it wasn't something that I really like opened my eyes to. However, I know now you can, like if you walk into M&S, they have a decent range of colours, so I buy like specific ones for my skin shade. It's just another kind of that feeling of invalidation, like we don't even stock the product for you, kind of makes you feel a bit like, oh, why am I not deserving when these other people are. Another one is that like peach colour pen at school. I've seen so many posts about this recently. Everyone's like, oh my god, I just realised that the peach colour at school, they called it skin colour, but it's not skin colour. And I'm like, did you not know? Like I thought that every time they got that pen out I was like, that's not my skin colour, like this is weird. I like as a kid, like that was something I noticed, and it's like so interesting to me that some people are just now realising that. It's like obviously that's what privilege is, like you don't get to realise what is going on. But though I have like a paler complexion, I like, you know when you're a kid you want to draw a picture of your family, I would be like, well I've only got one colour, but I'm a different colour to my mum's a different colour to my dad, I'm a different colour to my dad, like what colour is, like how am I meant to draw our family, you know? Other things are like dolls. I feel like most dolls are white. My mum was very on top of this and she did buy me, I had a black doll and I had an Indian doll. It's so important to see yourself represented. Again, like at school or at friends' houses and stuff, I feel like white dolls are the norm. I don't think they had multiracial Barbies or anything like that when I was a kid, so sense of being white as being like normal. Sometimes I get comments on my videos saying you sound white, like what does that mean? Or people be like, I can't work out where she's from, she sounds British but I'm not sure. And it's just kind of like, don't comment on that stuff, just leave it. It's not something you need to say. Another thing I wrote down was the whole like blonde hair, blue eyes aesthetic. I remember when I was like 13, this was like people would literally have in their Instagram bio like blonde hair, blue eyes, like look how pretty I am kind of thing. And I was just like, well I'm like the furthest thing from blonde hair and blue eyes. For the longest time I wanted like blue or green eyes because I thought they were more unique, and like brown eyes are so boring, and actually I want to be so pretty like Barbie and all the other pretty girls, you know? But like I look nothing like that like white blonde girl with blue eyes, and yeah, that probably did make me feel a bit less pretty. Another example I've said is my dad always gets stopped at the airport without fail. This, like most of the other things, are just things that like me and my family laugh this off. We always like kind of make jokes about it and stuff. At the end of the day, like seeing that happen over and over has instilled in me, firstly, that it's okay to treat people differently based on their race, but secondly, it has instilled in me that we are like different or weird or not normal, you know? I don't know, like they pull my dad aside at the airport thinking that he is, you know, there to harm people. I don't know, it's just like annoying because obviously he is not. Like I don't know, it's just annoying to see somebody that you love and someone you know so well had so many assumptions made about them. Now I want to talk a bit about being mixed race and how it is just my experience of having two races and kind of like the difficulties that come with it. So the first one I've written is everyone's favourite game is Guess My Ethnicity, which I kind of talked about this already, but people will always make assumptions. They'll be like, oh my god, are you Spanish? Or are you Portuguese? Like, where are you from? And I'll be like, oh, I'm half Indian. And they'll be like, really? No, I thought you were Spanish. It's not necessarily like a mean thing, but I don't know. I think especially because some people are insecure in their race. I definitely was like in school because it was just so unnormalized. I don't know, I just wanted to be like everybody else. So when people ask me this question, I would always be like, oh, like I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't know, I just feel like this question's better left unsaid. Another thing which I feel like is kind of difficult, and I think this is the thing I've not struggled the most with, but has been the most prominent, is that I don't really look exactly like either of my parents. People always like to remind you of that. Like at parents' evening, multiple times I've had, not teachers actually, but people at school be like, oh, where's your mum? I'd be like, this is her. They'd be like, no, really? Like, you don't look anything alike. I feel like obviously you can see somewhat of a resemblance, but we definitely don't look as alike as if both my parents were white, which can sometimes make it feel like I've never felt like this, but a lot of people maybe feel like less of a family because of that. I have often got stopped in the airport because my mum has a different surname to us and we don't necessarily look like her, so we have definitely been stopped before regarding that. And I get why they do it, like I'm not saying that that shouldn't happen, but it's just that constant reminder that like we're not the same as other families. Probably the biggest thing about being mixed race is I definitely have struggled with my identity. You know, I don't get to feel like one thing. I don't get to be like, oh, I'm Indian or I'm English. I don't have a set community of people which are all like me. Like when I'm at my Indian family's house, I definitely feel like too white or not Indian enough for them sometimes. But then if I'm like with my white friends, I'm also aware that I'm not as white as them. I feel like a lot of the time I felt not enough, or like there's nobody else like me. I think 2% of the UK population is mixed race, which is actually a decent amount, but obviously so much smaller than the amount of like white people. Another thing is that 2% is lots of different mixes. I only know one person in my life that is mixed race, half Indian, half white. So sometimes it can feel like there's just nobody else like you, and I don't know, that's never a good feeling, I guess. For example, these struggles, it sometimes feel like nobody else experiences them. Yeah, and I want to reiterate that I have not experienced like anyone shouting racist language at me or anything like that. It definitely hasn't been as easy as just being white, you know? My dad was in a pub once when he was, I think, 18, 19, just with like some friends, and there were these people outside and they were shouting at him and calling him. He didn't even know them. They weren't people that they didn't know him at all. And then when he left the pub, they like literally chased him down the street. Nothing horrible like that has ever happened to me, which I'm grateful for. I shouldn't have to be grateful for that not happening to me though, you know what I mean? Having a parent experience that is not nice either, and he's also, I think, experienced like racism in the workplace, and his parents, obviously they don't speak amazing English, which I think must have been difficult for him growing up. Sometimes the cultural dynamics are something that I struggle with. Like for example, with my Indian family, they have open casket funerals, which is just something kind of alien to me, especially in this country. That isn't really something you see a lot. Obviously some people do it, but I don't know many people that have had to go to one of those, and I've only been to one. It was for my granddad, and it was honestly it's just difficult going to something like that because it's obviously already going to be a sad day, but then having to kind of go through this like cultural shift, that's not something that like is well talked about or well experienced here. So it was just so weird to go to just do that. And yeah, especially when everybody around you is fully Indian. Me and my brother are the only ones in my family that are mixed race, so when we're with them we are the only ones. And yeah, when we were at like the funeral and stuff, everyone there knows that this is like a normal funeral, but like for us I was like, oh my god, like this is not what I've seen on TV and stuff like that, you know? I did Indian dance as a kid because my mum really put a lot of effort into like educating me on Indian culture. I was the only mixed race one, and when our mums would all drop us off and everything, I always felt a bit like weird that my mum was white and everyone else's was Indian. Yeah, sometimes I don't feel Indian enough, sometimes I don't feel white enough. I get so many comments about this. So many people assuming I don't know anything about Indian heritage, that I don't care to learn, that I wouldn't want to go to India, that I am ashamed of my heritage, all of this stuff. Honestly, race comments can just leave the chat. Like, please just don't. I don't want to hear anything about it. If you assume that I am ashamed of my race, you're basically telling me I should be ashamed. It's like saying, oh, I assume you think you're too fat. There is no such thing as too fat, and there's no such thing as, like, you know, it's less like insinuation that being fat or being bigger is bad or being Indian is bad, you know? I just don't really get why people think it's okay to comment that sort of thing. This, I don't get any hate really on my channel, which thanks to you guys, like, you're all really nice. But the one thing that gets to me is these race comments about me not caring about my Indian heritage, not knowing anything about it, and just basically like I'm an ignorant, has no clue. It's not true. Like, it's just not true. And as a mixed race person, that is something I'm insecure about, not being Indian enough. Like, the last thing I want and need is comments about it. Just want to say the light, like, the sun is setting, so I'm sorry if the lighting isn't perfect, but I could literally talk about this for hours, but I'm trying not to make this video too long. So another thing that I've kind of noticed that adds to the sort of like feeling of abnormality is I have definitely filled out forms before, government forms or like forms for like school or something, and they haven't had my ethnicity on them. I feel like it's not an easy like tick box situation. Like, every time I get one of those, I'm like, oh my god, which one are we? Like, am I just mixed race today? Are we like defining my mix today? Like, so many different things. And sometimes I feel like I probably filled out a form before where they didn't even have mixed race on it. Let's talk about mixed race babies are so cute. I agree. I was a cute kid. I'm joking. But this kind of like over emphasis on like mixed race babies being cute, I think this is especially in like a mixed race, like half white half black baby. That is very, I see that everywhere, like, oh my god, mixed race babies are the cutest, mixed race babies are the cutest, everywhere. And so many people being like, oh, I just want my kids to look like that. And I think they're cute too, but I don't think it's okay to assign, well, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's okay to assign like prettiness or like cuteness to a race. I don't know exactly how I feel about this, because I get that people are like supporting, but I don't know. I just feel like it's more, there's so much to being mixed race, and it's not just being cute, you know? I'm not trying to say that I'm cute, but I feel like people that say like, oh, I want half black babies because they think it's cute, it's like, well, no, like, take a proper think about like the struggles that that child is going to go through for being mixed race. Like, it's not just a simple thing of like, oh, how cute, you know? You're so lucky you're tanned, or oh, I wish I was tanned like you know? I don't know, it's kind of that like idea that I am attractive only because I look white with a tan, as in I can pass as a white person with a tan is making me more attractive by some standard. Yeah, society nowadays has, I guess, kind of like told us that being tanned is desirable, but in a different day it was desirable to have paler skin because it meant that you were wealthier and weren't working like on the land. And I just don't think it's cool for society to tell us that your skin colour has any correlation with your worth. I get people are just saying like, you're lucky that you're tanned, and I think I'm lucky I'm tanned because society has taught me that it's nice to be tanned. I think when you say that, you kind of forget everything that comes with it, as if I'm just lucky to be tanned and that's it. That's the only difference between me and you, is that I'm tanned. And I know people don't mean it that way. It's almost like insinuating that if I was any darker, like if I was as dark as my dad, for example, I wouldn't be classed as pretty because I'm too dark, which, I don't know, just doesn't sit well with me, and something to think about, I think. Another one is I've definitely had people confused over my surname. So my surname is Patel, is very, very common Indian surname. I'm pretty sure like every school that I've been to, I've had like 4 or 5 Patels in my year. However, when I went to Edinburgh, a lot of people had never heard my surname before, which really speaks volumes to me about outside London, how different the world is, I guess. Like I said, I was very lucky to grow up in a multicultural place, but yeah, I feel like I've definitely seen some people be like, Patel? What? But you're white. I don't know. Just confusion over who I am, what I am, as if it even matters. Like, I'm just me, just let me be, you know? And then again, confusion over my middle name. So my middle name is Florence. This is my great-grandma's name that my mum gave to me. I don't have my mum's surname, so this is kind of my token to her. And again, confusion, like, but you're not white, but are you white, you know? I feel like people are like, wait, what? Your middle name's Florence? How does that work? I think questions about race, it should just be left out. If somebody wants to tell you their race, they will. It's not up to you to dig the information out of them, you know? And then another thing I've said is that me and my brother, obviously we are the same mix, However, sometimes we identify differently. Like as a kid, I wore Indian clothes a lot of the time. I thought they were really nice. I just liked it. I did Indian dance. I was probably more in touch with my Indian side, and my brother kind of wasn't. And sometimes that made me feel more distant from him, like we were from different families, or like we weren't, I don't know, one and the same, which can be difficult. I don't know, your family, you should be able to feel like you're all this, like in it together. And sometimes I felt like we were taking our I don't know, sometimes I felt like we were like culturally different even though we were the same. Yeah, that's everything I kind of have to say. I don't think I've expressed everything the best. I am working on it and I want to talk about this more. This isn't the last video you'll be seeing about this. I hope that this was somewhat insightful, I guess. I have taken so much away from hearing other people talk over the past few weeks, and all I want is if one of you takes something away from this, then I'll be happy. I think it's way too easy to make excuses for microaggressions. If you don't know, educate yourself. I need to educate myself too. I agree. Like, I am in this with you guys. We all need to do better. It's not okay, even if you have been raised your whole life told that it's okay, it's just not. And it's time to wake up, you know. 2020 is the biggest wake up call I've ever seen, but we needed it. We were all sleeping with wool over our eyes and we have finally been woken up. So please make a permanent change. If you have ever been a bystander, even to microaggressions, I've done this. I think probably all of us have. Start making a change. If somebody says, you know, like to somebody, where are you from, or, you know, questions them a bit too much about their race, pull them aside afterwards and be like, hey, I don't think it's fair for you to do that. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know if they thought that it was okay for you to ask that. Maybe be more cautious about it in the future. It's a personal thing and someone will share their story with you if they want to. It's not up to you to dig it out. So that's everything I have to say for this video. I hope this wasn't too rambly or boring. Again, I do just want to emphasize that I have not experienced what so many people of colour have experienced, and everyone's journey is different, everyone's story is different. This is just mine. And yeah, I hope you took something away from this video. I love you all so much. Thank you for everything and thank you for all the support. I literally, those comments, they do get to me, but they're 1 in a million and I have so many nice ones. So thank you to all of you guys that are lovely. Thank you for all the nice comments. I love you so much, and yeah, I'll see you on Sunday for my next video. It's gonna be a room tour, so little hint. If you watched all the way to the end of the video, then you get to know what Sunday's video is. Hooray! But yeah, I'll see you then. Bye!